Savano Bhunaktu Samaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Adhyaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayana Swayam Vyasena Kratitam Puranam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitaamritavarshini Bhagavati Ashtadashandhyayini Amba Tvamadusandadhami Bhagavadgite Bhavatveshini Yam Brahma Varune Prakramarutaha Sunnati Divyai Savaihi Vaigai Sangapadakramo Panishadaihi Nayandiyam Samadam Yāyāvasthitatagatena manasa Pashyanti yam yoginaha Yasyaprajnavidussurasuraha Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha.
Verse number 10. Tamavaja Rishikeshaha
Tamavaja Rishikeshaha
Sandiva Bharata
Rasandiva Bharata
Senayorubhayormadhye
Senayorubhayormadhye
Shirantamidam vachaha
Shirantamidam vachaha.
We left Krishna smiling yesterday. Lord Krishna was left smiling at the end of the class. He is still smiling. And so we need to know why. And I gave one small hint. What was that? He is smiling for the same reason. Lord Dakshinamurti, the teacher of Vedanta, is smiling. Why is Lord Dakshinamurti smiling? Nobody knows? Nobody wants to guess? Now everybody is smiling. That's nice. The knowledge of the self, Atma Jnana, is a happy affair. Okay? It will not be received very well. If the teacher of Vedanta says, I am Ananda, you are also Ananda, that's what the Shastra says, now give me a hanky. This simply will not do. Why? Brahmavit Brahmaiva Bhavati. It is said in the Upanishad. The knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. There is no becoming here, is Brahman. Bhavati should not be taken as become. Bhavati means is Brahman. The knower of Brahman is what? Brahman. So since there is no difference between the subject matter and the subject at hand, meaning the person who has imbibed this knowledge becomes the subject matter. Unlike a very distinguished Nobel Prize material winning professor of microbiology, let us say. Okay. This professor of microbiology has been teaching for 30 years, 40 years, this many research papers, that many books, so many awards, Nobel Prize also. Then he comes or she comes into the classroom. Then what? Nobody recognizes them. Why? Because they have become a microbe. After teaching microbiology for so long, they have become a microscopic virus or bacteria. Has that ever happened? No. No. In no branch of knowledge does the subject, the person doing the research and the person who is studying become one in this way with the subject matter, except in Vedanta. Only in Vedanta this is possible, and so therefore this is, even though the teaching is a serious topic, it's a serious topic in the sense that it's a topic that has to be taken seriously, it is joyous, joyous, joyous all the way. That is why. That is one reason why Lord Dakshinamurti is smiling to say, come on, don't be so worried about life. Samsara is a spoof, and I will tell you how, and I'll just will teach you in sign language. I'll just go like this, and you will understand. And so, this is one of the reasons Dakshinamurti is called Vitahasa, a small smile, not a lunatic laugh. No, it is a small smile playing on the lips, a small smile. And Lord Krishna is also smiling. And maybe he is smiling in addition because he is happy, he was waiting for Arjuna to ask this question. As though, because of the speed in which he is giving the knowledge and the immediacy in which he is giving the knowledge, it's very clear that he was waiting for Arjuna to ask this question. So he is happy that Arjuna is finally asking this question. So maybe he is smiling for that reason also. He is not smiling because he is making fun of Arjuna. That is not the idea at all. So this is something which is very, very beautiful. Tam uvacha Rishikesha Gudakeshena Bharata. Gudakesha, we've already seen, the one who has mastery over what? That which comes very easily in Vedanta class. Sleep. Okay. One who has mastery over sleep is what? Arjuna. Prahasan iva, as though laughing, means smiling. Where Senayoho Ubhayoho Madhye, right in the battlefield, right there where they were standing, in front of Bhishma, Drona, everybody, the teaching begins. And to what kind of Arjuna? Vishidantam Gudakesham Uvacha. Vishidantam means the one who is dipped in sorrow and taken out. From head to toe he is sorrowful, dipped in a big bucket of sorrow and taken out. How will he be? Like that, he was dripping with sorrow. Needed to be hung out to dry for a little bit. And that kind of an Arjuna, Lord Krishna begins to teach. Very beautiful. Let us go further. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shocyanam Vashocasvam
Ashocyanam Vashocasvam
Prajnavadamscha Bhashase
Yajnavanamscha Bhashase
Gatasu Nagatasumscha
Yatasu Nagatasumscha
Nushocanti Panditaha
Nanushocanti Panditaha.
This is officially the verse where the teaching begins. Till now it was just, what is that? Setting the stage. This is where the teaching officially starts, and Adi Shankara's Bhashya also starts with this verse. Till then, Adi Shankara doesn't feel like even commenting. Other commentators, like Ramaraya Kavi, I mean, Gita has many commentaries. There is a famous one from Andhra, Telangana area, Ramaraya Kavi, a very nice commentary. And so he comments in the first chapter also, but Adi Shankara says, what is there to comment? Why should I comment on grief? When really speaking, there is no grief. That is what we are sent to discover, that ultimately there is no grief. So commenting on grief, when there really speaking is no grief, what does that do? It gives the mithya grief energy. It's like giving a protein shake to grief. And what will happen? It will drink the shake and leave you shaken with grief. That's why you don't give it energy. And that's why Adi Shankara does not comment on this at all. He just leaves the whole chapter without feeling any guilt, any responsibility, nothing. He says, this is not worth commenting. Vishada, sorrow. And why should I comment on sorrow? It's almost like he is saying. So where this sorrow is being negated, he jumps in and starts to comment, even with mindless of the fact that this is actually well into the beginning of the chapter. At least I should start from chapter 2. No such conventions apply to the master. Master commentator called Bhashyakara. Bhashyakara means Adi Shankara, even though there are so many Bhashyas for so little time in terms of the whole Grantha, the manuscripts of the tradition. So many Bhashyas are there. But when you say Bhashyakara, who do we mean? Adi Shankara. Not any Shankara, not the one who came like before yesterday. Okay, yeah. So, Adi Shankara. Right. Although he may have also written Bhashyas, a very nice talk he gave, very nice person also. But when we say Bhashyakara, that is why it is Adi Shankara. Then we have a note to the Bhashya. A Bhashya is further explained, and that is called Tika. Tika, like short notes. And when you say Tika Kara, what do we mean? Anandagiri. One person called Anandagiri, very famous Swami. Tika Kara, Anandagiri, Bhashyakara, Adi Shankara, and then there is one another commentary called Vartika. Vartika. Vartika means it's a kind of a commentary in verse. Vartikakara means Adi Shankara's disciple Sureshwaracharya, because they were all very famous for their writings. So even though there are many Tikakaras, Anandagiri stands out and has become one with the term Tikakara. And likewise, Sureshwaracharya, one of the direct disciples of Adi Shankara, has become one with the term what? Vartikakara. Okay. So Bhashya begins here because the teaching begins here. And the teaching is a very interesting, and to us it may seem like a strange place to begin for several reasons. But first let us translate before we understand. Ashocya, Ashocyaha, Ashocyah, Ashocyau, Ashocyaha, like Ramah, Ramau, Ramaha, Ashocyan, object. Na shoka yogyah, Ashocyah, that which is not deserving of sorrow, of grief, is called Ashocya. Na shoka yogyah. Shoka yogyah, Shocyah, that is negated by the Nanj Pratyaya a, negative particle a. In Sanskrit, you say a, you put a in front of that which you want to negate. If it begins with a consonant, If it begins with a vowel, you put an. I put an. In English also we have kind, unkind, same prefix. Okay. So, Ashochyan means a host of things that do not deserve your time, let alone your grief. Anvashochastvam. What kind of sandhi is there in Anvashochastvam? Anvashochaha. Anu Ashochastvam. Ashochaha Tvam. You are going along, Anu plus Anva. So, Anvashochastvam. You are going along with something that doesn't need grief. You are grieving, O Arjuna, over something that is not legitimate, that is not at all needing to be grieved. And yet, Bhashase, you speak. Bhash. Bhash is the verb, root verb. Bhash means to talk. Yes, yet you talk. And you have talked a lot. 1.25 chapters you have talked. And what have you talked? Seemingly philosophical talk. Correct? That's what you have talked. You have talked about this Vajana argument, how to kill my own people, I can't do that. Then you have talked about the dismantling of the cultural and philosophical basis of this whole tradition. And how the children will become orphans and how the women will be colonized. And other cultures and countries will come and rule us and we will lose our traditions, cultures. We saw that. Ways of being. Even if you didn't see that, I saw that. Okay? So then we saw that where? In the previous Janma, right? Where did we see this? First chapter. Okay. So then what happens? So he is giving an answer to that. He remembers everything Arjuna said and he says, Prajna Vadamscha Bhashase. Vadam means words, arguments. Vada is argument. Vadamscha Bhashase. You are talking, you are acting like you are making a lot of sense. Acting like you are making a lot of sense. You are talking high, lofty philosophy, high level philosophy you are talking. You are talking about the destruction of culture, traditions, and killing should not be done. And you are talking of Papa, Punya, hell, all these things, very big philosophical arguments you are giving. Even though you are talking like a Pandit, Arjuna, you are no Pandit. Pandit is a word that doesn't need translation. Everybody knows it has made its way into the dictionary. English dictionary. You talk like a Pandit without being a Pandit. You are not Pandita, you are Panditam Manyaha. You think yourself to be a Pandit, you think yourself to be very well read, erudite, but you are not a Pandit. Why? Because the true definition and the characteristic of a Pandit is that they na anushocanti panditaha. The Pandit does not grieve. The Panditaha, the Pandits, plural, do not grieve. Pandit means the one who has Atma Jnanam. Jnani here is called Pandit. Even though we may call any priest as Pandit in the colloquial language, but here the technical definition of Pandit is Panda Atma Vishaya Buddhihi Yesham Te Panditaha. Panda. Panda means knowledge. What kind of knowledge? What other kind is there? Atma Vishaya Buddhi. The Buddhi for the self-knowledge which which is assimilated well in the heart. Such a person is called Pandita because he or she has Panda. Panda means Atmajnanam. Atmajnanam asya asti iti panditah. Panda Atmavishaya buddhihi yesham te. For whom this knowledge is already there. They are called Pandita. And what is their first lakshana? Their first, how do you identify a Pandit? That there is absence of sorrow. With regard to what? With regard to two types of situations. Gatasuhu, Gatasur, and Agatasuhu in the word. Gataha asavaha yasmat. From whom the breaths have departed. Means what?
Dead.
Dead, yes. From whom the breaths have departed means what? No longer alive. You have to start chanting Ram Nam Satya Hai. That is what you have to start doing. This is person not alive. Okay. Natasu, Asu means breath. Asura means Asushuramante iti asuraha. People who only live for the breath. They want to be long lived and they just want everything that is visible and they don't go for the invisible Atma. They don't go for anything, anything subtle. Their pursuits are very, very gross. Asushu Ramante, those who revel only in the prana and all the delights that it can bring are called Asuraha. That is the definition. We'll need it in the 16th chapter. So right now I'm giving it to you. So this is Asuraha, and Asu means breath. Gatasavaha means from whom the breath has departed. Means what? Dead people. Agatasu means from whom the breath is yet to depart. What does that mean?
Living.
Yes, Aspadadivat, people like us who are still breathing. But when do we know when is the last breath? Huh? Who knows? Nobody knows. The Vayu, the prana itself may have a thought. May say, what has this fellow achieved? 60 years has been alive, simply complaining about everybody. Why should I go back in once I have come out? I'm not going into these pairs of lunch. It can do that. If it had a human mind, it would have done that. Fortunately, it is guided by Bhagavan's law, so it will not do that. And so therefore, there are, in Lord Krishna's view, two kinds of people who are there, the dead and the not yet dead. This is how a Jnani looks at life. Very interesting way. We will not, generally speaking, people will not look like this. People will, this is not how we talk in the world. I'm having a party. Oh, wonderful. When? Oh, for Guru Purnima, July 3rd, we are having a nice celebration. Who are you inviting?
Not
all the people whose breath has not yet left me. We don't talk like this. If we talk like this, as Swamiji said in the morning class, they will think we are special people and carry us away to see a specialist. That is the definition of a special person. The one who needs to see a specialist. So we don't talk like that. But Lord Krishna can get away talking like this because he is in the middle, or rather at the beginning of the teaching. And the teaching is based on the question of sorrow. Why? Because Arjuna has been flooding the chariot with the tears. And while Lord Krishna is talking, he is bailing out the water. Because now the battlefield is ready, he has to go. That much he has cried in the first chapter. So sorrow is all around Lord Krishna. in the form of Arjuna's misgivings about the battle, in the form of his love for his dear people, all these things. He has to address sorrow. And in fact, the entry point for any Upanishad or any treatise on Vedanta, there are two dwaras, two entry points. First one is Shoka Nivritti. Nivritti means removal and Shoka means Shoka, sorrow. Okay. Shoka Nivritti, removal of sorrow, first entry point. Second entry point, another entry point is Bhaya Nivritti. What is Bhaya?
Fear.
Fear. Removal of fear and removal of sorrow is the business of the Upanishads. These are the two entry points. Here in the Bhagavad Gita, the entry point that the Lord takes is Shoka Nivritti, because Arjuna wasn't scared of the battle. He was sad. That was the human problem here. That is his problem. He was sad. He was not afraid. He was sad. Here also, there and then in the 7th chapter of the Chandogya Upanishad, where the sage Narada goes to Sanat Kumara for the teaching, there also the emphasis is removal of sorrow, shoka nivritti. That is what it is. Because there Narada tells Sanat Kumara, what does he tell? Shokam tarati atmavit iti shrutam maya. This has been heard from people like you, Bhagavad Sadrishebhya, from honorable teachers like you. What have I heard? The knower of the self crosses sorrow. Soham Bhagavad. Soham doesn't mean Soham. Okay? Here he is just giving an introduction of himself. And he says Soham. And so Soham Bhagavad, this is who I am, this is what I know. Shochami, I am subject to grief. Shokasya param tarayatum Bhagavad. Please take me across the ocean of sorrow. That is Shoka Nivritti. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, in the 2nd chapter called Anandavalli, Valli means chapter here. So in the 2nd chapter, we have the focus is on Bhaya Nivritti. Abhayam pratishtham vindate athaso bhayangato bhavati. This is how the knower of this Atma gains freedom from fear, gets established in abhaya, non-fear. So these are the two entry points, the primary entry points, because the entry points for the teaching have to address the human predicament, and so the human predicament is basically fear or sorrow. Anger can come from sorrow, anger can come from fear, all other emotions are based on these two primal emotions. And so this is what is being talked about here. Sorrow nivritti. So therefore, he puts it in a drastic way, but there is truth in every word. Ashocyan anvashochastvam. O Arjuna, you grieve over some things that do not deserve to be grieved. You are crying over that which doesn't need to be cried over. And yet you talk like a pandit without being a pandit, okay? You're just talking like a pandit. What is the lakshana of the pandit? They don't grieve over that which comes and goes. Because what is the nature of that which comes and goes? It comes and goes. If you ask something that is going to go to stay, will it stay? No. The leaf that is falling from the tree, you say, please stay, don't fall, please stay. Will it stay? In fact, in Western country, a whole season is called fall, because all the leaves do there is fall, 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 fall. The whole season is called fall. you tell the tree, don't shed the leaves, it's not going to listen. You can shed tears because the tree is shedding the leaves. It still won't comply. Why? Because it is a natural law. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityu. That which is subject to birth is what?
Subject to
Subject to death. Yes, fill in the blanks. Yeah. That which is subject to birth is subject to death. All the time. Okay, it may be long lived, but then it is still subject to death. It may be long lived. If you are a tortoise, some tortoise, the big tortoises can live for 200 years. Easily. When they are 95-year-olds, they are fertilizing eggs and laying eggs at 90. That is how they are. And so some of them live like that. But if you take the lifespan of a housefly, few days. A beetle, few more days, just like that. And so the lifespan is such that that's why it's called lifespan. Evameva, this is how it is. And however it is, you cannot say that that this is not deserving of, this is deserving of grief, therefore you cannot say. So here there is talk about death. Lord Krishna starts with a gloomy topic. Not yet dead, and the ones that are about to die. The ones that have died and the ones that are about to die. This is how he does it. Why such a gloomy topic? Because he is just countering Arjuna's talk of death, 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 death. Death of my own people where? In chapter 1. Death of my guru, can't kill, killing death, killing death. He is just responding to Arjuna. Arjuna brought it up. Arjuna brings up the question of death and killing, and therefore Lord Krishna is merely responding in the same way. The second reason to talk about death is to show you that this is a battlefield and the killing will happen. The third reason that the Bhagavad Gita teaching starts with death, a very special reason, because it applies a maxim called in Sanskrit as Nyaya. What is that Nyaya? Prathama Malla Nyaya. Malla means your village wrestler, champion. So then if you want to be the reigning champion wrestler in any particular town or village, what do? You have to knock off the reigning champion. The one who has got a prize and the one who is a champion, you have to knock that fellow off. And then what do you become? You become the new Malla, right? You become the reigning Malla. And so, and you don't have to fight with each and every citizen of the village. You don't have to fight with everybody on the street. You just tackle the one who is there, the one who is oiling his biceps and triceps and going like this. That one you tackle. And the one who is twirling his mustaches, and the one who is saying, come to me, come let me show you a few things. You tackle that fellow, and then you put him flat until the countdown is there, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alive, definitely, but too weak to get up. Okay, then what does the person do? The umpire puts your hand up and says, you meet the new Malla, meet the new champion. And so, you just have to knock off that which is the main thing in order to prove this point. And here, what is the universal cause of sorrow? Death. In every country, in every part of the world, in every part of time, in the most remote past, in the recent past, and in the contemporary times, what is the worst thing? Death. Because you can't overcome it, because the person is not coming back. You can't immediately, it's a shock. Even though the person was sick for a time, you still miss the person. Even though you may be relieved, yes, they are not in pain anymore. Thank God, they are free of this terrible downtrodden body. They are free of this suffering body. You may be thinking, feeling good for them, but still you miss their presence. Even though it was a bedridden presence, you still recall the wonderful times you had. So death is a universal cause of grief, but not according to Lord Krishna. And this is why this verse has to be studied very, very carefully. We can look at this from two standpoints. We can look at it merely from a pragmatic standpoint, a practical standpoint. Here we don't have to bring in philosophy, we don't have to bring in Vedanta, Shmedanta, nothing. We don't have to bring in anything. Just from a practical standpoint, okay, death has taken place. What can you do? Tell me. Can you reverse it? No. Can you just sprinkle something on the person and bring them back to life? Only in the Puranas. I wish I could do that now. Yes, some exception will always be there, but it is considered final. Even though we hear stories that this, there was a, what is it? Recently it came, a funeral home in somewhere in America, funeral home where the body was given and then they were going to have a service and then not in America, somewhere else it was, somewhere else in South America actually. And so they put it in they put the body of a lady who died in the hospital, put it in the funeral home, and the person then put it in a coffin casket, put it there. And then heard a knocking sound. And the main person wasn't there. There were two assistants who promptly ran away because they were new. They thought, what is this going on? Already they were squeamish about the job. They immediately ran away. They called the owner, the boss. The boss came and quickly opened it. And then this woman, weak with the knocking, she had been knocking for 45 minutes. She was alive and then was taken back to the hospital. You do hear stories like that, but that's because she wasn't dead yet. Yeah. So death means God. That's why we say death and God. So from a practical, pragmatic standpoint, you cannot do anything. Pujya Swamiji used to tell a story of the beloved spouse after losing the husband. She was inconsolable. Woke up crying, very sad. And then crying, she took out the saucepan from the cupboard. Crying, she filled it with water. Crying, she put it on the stove. Crying, she waited for it to boil. Crying, she put what? Sugar and the tea leaves. Crying, she added the milk. Crying, she had her tea. Okay? She still, life goes on. Yes, she is filled with grief, but the grief is, from a practical standpoint, is not going to do anything. This is how it is. It may sound very cruel to say it, but it is a fact. It is a fact. Life goes on. Even though you are crying, even though you miss the person, even though you don't feel like you can ever be yourself, you feel like I cannot recover from this blow because the person was so close to me. There is a void. All this is true. But even from the same Vyavaharika, empirical standpoint, it is also true that nothing can be changed. Life does go on. Life does go on. And so, therefore, what does the grief do? What is the role of grief? There is no role to grief other than perhaps a psychological healing. That's all it does. And if that is the case, okay, no problem. But Arjuna's grief was not a psychological healing here. He was just so upset at the fact that he has to kill his own people. He was distraught, very, very upset. So this is from the pragmatic, practical, everyday standpoint. But now let us look at it from the Vedantic standpoint. From the Vedantic standpoint, where does the grief come from? We have to look for the grief. Where does it come from? And we can only see two sources. What are they? Atma, I, Anatma, not I. Only two sources of grief. Because the whole world can be divided into two. Atma, Anatma. Dvau hi padarthau. Asmin jagati. In this world there are only two things. Kau, what are they? Atma, Anatma. No. Atma and Anatma, only two things. Yesterday we talked about this a little bit. Is Anatma the cause of grief? Anatma means not I, not self. Is the not self cause of grief? You can say, yes, I feel terrible when there is an earthquake, 3,000 people die. How can I not be sad? Of course I will be sad. So many lives destroyed, so many homes destroyed, so many children motherless, fatherless, so many children themselves dead. How can I not be sad? Of course I'm sad. But like I pointed out yesterday, the person has just won the lottery and then had to go to his or her father's friends, friend's father's funeral. Can't keep a straight face, right? So, Anatma cannot be the cause of sorrow because of its changing and finite nature. What is Anatma? It is changing, it is finite. And in the view of Vedanta, not really there. You just enjoy it, that's all. Not really there, ultimately. And even though if you are still not really there, meaning you are not ready to go there, where grief is not really there, you can at least come to this much you can come on this journey. You can come on this journey with me. And what can you see? You can see that Anatma, that which is the not I, has has a few characteristics. One, it is always changing. Two, it is finite. Finite means subject to ending. Three, I can objectify it. Objectify means what? I can cognize it with the pramanani, with the means of knowledge that I have at hand. I can cognize it. These are the three things that we have to note, that everything that we call Anatma suffers from. Anatma suffers from changing nature, always in a flux, always changing. Anatma, that we call Anatma, always comes to an end. That's how we know Anatma. It is Anatma. Then what is the third thing? Anatma is something that I can observe and I can see as an object. I can see means I can objectify with my 5 sense organs, or with what? With the inference, arthapatti, multi-step inference. Multi-step inference means what? More than one step. Devadatta does not eat. Okay, big deal. When? During the day. And then after 1 month he is put on the weighing machine. The fellow has not lost even 1 ounce. Even 1/10 of a kilo he has not lost. What do we conclude? He eats at night, even though you don't see him in the dining hall in breakfast. You don't see him in the dining hall at lunch. You don't see him in the dining hall at dinner. And you don't even see him in the dining hall at tea. You have to conclude he must be going to the shops, bringing all the things, and then he is a nocturnal, nighttime, Devadatta. This is a multi-step inference. Sing Arthavati. Anyatha Anupatti. Anupatta means any other way is not possible. That is what is called multi-step inference. And this goes all the time. Every parent has to use Arthavati, otherwise you cannot raise your children. Especially if they are teenagers. This is how every mother will tell. Where were you? And the teenager's typical response. I was studying with my friend, so and so. Wrong. I called the friend, you were not there. Yeah, that was because, I had just left from there. Why did it take for so long? Oh, I dropped in the other friend's house. Lies. I called the other friend, you were not there. This is Arthavati. Every parent uses this. And so, this is a very useful pramana, all these things. So, comparison, upama, all these things are there. And then, with any of these means of knowledge, that which I can catch, grasp, I can do grahana. That means I can grasp it. That is anatma. That is the nature of anatma. So then, is the body atma or anatma? You are scaring me. Why you are taking so much? Ah, thank God. Thank God. Anatma. Why is the body anatma? Because it fits these three characteristics. Look, it is changing. That's why you can show me a photograph of you. One person came to me. Actually, this really happened in Washington, D.C. Well, 88-year-old man came to me and said and showed me a grainy black and white small photograph of a cute baby and said, "This is me." How can you say this is me? Then I looked at him and I looked at the photograph. I said, I can see the resemblance. Here also no hair, no teeth. And now also no hair, no teeth. So how can you say that was me? And this 2-year-old who doesn't look anything like you now, but you say that is me. That means changes have taken place. Jayate, asti, viparinamate, vardhate, viparinamate, apakshiyate, and vinashyati. What is this that you're talking? Never heard this before. What is this? Some people are thinking, while others are thinking, ये कहीं सुना हुआ है. The 6 stages of growth, the life cycle of everything that was talked about in the Tattva Bodha. Everything that is anatma. Jayate is born, asti survives birth, vardhate grows up, viparinamate changes, blossoms, becomes capable of reproduction. Apakshiyate, what is that? Deteriorates. Vinashyati, tata, that's what it is. Vinashyati means he is destroyed. This is what anatma is. It is subject to these 6 stages. It is subject to changes. And then what is the second definition? It is subject to end. So the body is subject to an end. Every body, any body is subject to end. No matter how much, what is that, iron you pump, you go to the gym and then you come out looking like some King Kong. And then what? And then still, even that person, one day, tata, the body has to drop. And then another person doesn't go to the gym but takes a lot of, what is that, elixirs, this, that, so many kinds of things. Berries, acai berry, and then acai berry, very famous. Berry, very famous, okay. Yeah. And what is this acai berry? It makes you live long apparently, and the wrinkles go away, so to speak. I don't know. That's what they say. Because it is full of antioxidants. And oxidization is the second name of the body. That's what happens. Means everything breaks down, everything begins to break down. And you stop the breakdown by eating acai berries. And it is over harvested. All over South America, it is completely over harvested. Little bit that craze has stopped. So the farmers must be heaving a sigh of relief. Okay, and so this is what it is. Or goji berry. We have growing up, I never heard of goji berry. Why? Because it was all exported. Nothing is available in India. It is growing in the Himalayas. Another cousin sister of acai berry. This goji berry also very full of antioxidants, etc. No matter how many acai berries you eat, even if you swim with the goji berry juice and what is that? Amla juice, another berry, gooseberry. Still one day the body will deteriorate. You can go jogging, you can go running, you can do yoga from dawn to dusk. Still, the body will deteriorate. This is why will it deteriorate? Because it is not Atma simple. If the body goes, what? Prana says, Prana bids adieu, Prana goes. There is Udana Vayu. Udana Vayu is the timekeeper. Take, 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 take. That is its only job. And if you get agitated and angry because somebody said something you didn't like, you breathe, tick, 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 tick. Because we don't come to the world with an assigned number of years. We come to the world with assigned number of breaths. Therefore, the yogis thought they will outwit Lord Yama. Breathe 3 times a day, enough. You train yourself to breathe once or twice in a minute. People are there who can do that. For Yama is not friend. Yama just goes to Starbucks and orders himself a nice coffee, waits. Ultimately, everybody delivers themselves unto Lord Yama. Even if you don't believe in all this afterlife, this life, from a most pragmatic point, there is, the body dies, body is anatma. Body is that which is subject to death. Whether you cry or not, this fact cannot be altered. Therefore, the grief is not legitimate. Because a legitimate grief is when it is not expected and something happens. But this is expected. From birth, death is expected. The countdown has begun. As soon as the child takes the first breath out of its mother's womb, the countdown has begun. Udana Vayu is counting down. That's why it is not yet dead. Not yet dead. Not yet dead. Because death is the destination for this body. Then you can also see it from a Vaidika point of view, from the point of view of the person who has, believes in Shastra, Veda, etc. And what do you find there? There also it is not subject to grief because what is the belief? The body dies, but the jiva continues. The subtle body is the fuel, is the flame that carries the jiva according to their karma to various lokas. This is the belief. Good lokas, not so good lokas. You go there, have a good time or bad time, and then what? Come back. This is what the Vaidika believes. And this subtle body is a nice plane, and then in this plane, they don't charge you for excess baggage. You say, I have a few more desires. Can I bring them on? Sure. 10 more suitcases allowed. No problem. You can come on the plane. And then all that is carried into the next life. This is how it is. So even if you believe that, still life doesn't come to an end. In fact, nothing comes to an end. It is just a transformation, says the Vaidika. The person who subscribes to the Vedic tradition says nothing comes to an end. In this universe, Even the physicists say the same thing. You cannot add anything to the universe. You cannot take away anything. Everything is just transformation. You burn something, it turns into carbon, and then you flush the carbon, and then what does it turn into? H2O, water, and then like this, it just undergoes transformation after transformation after transformation. There is really no end to speak of. If this is true with inert matter, what to talk of the conscious being, who is the observer of all the changes? Why should we say that that conscious being comes to an end? So this conscious being doesn't come to an end. So from the Vaidika standpoint, there is no reason for grief. From the logical standpoint, there is no reason for grief. And then finally, from the Vedanta standpoint, which says the Atma is never subject to death, is there reason for grief? No, no reason for grief. This is the purport of this verse by Lord Krishna. This is a typical teaching style where the entire teaching is encapsulated in a few short words in one verse really, and that is going to be unfolded all the way into the 18th chapter. The verse which we chant during the lunch and the dinner. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja ahantva sarva papebhyah mokshayishyami ma ashuchah. Do not grieve. You see, from this, do not grieve, to that, do not grieve. From the 2nd to the 18th chapter, the words Ashuchaha and Ashochyam embrace the entire teaching. Beautifully. It's like a garland that embraces the whole teaching. And then it will, starting this verse, the whole thing is going to be unfolded. But here, the first thing that has been negated is the notion that one is subject to grief. But then, objection. What is the objection? It is kind of inauspicious to begin with the negative particle. Should have said something positive. It's a positive Shastra. It is good news that the Atma is not subject to grief. Shubh bolo. You should talk auspiciously. You should not talk negatively. And here, Ashocya, that which is not deserving grief, it is put in a negative way. Does that make the Gita Shastra inauspicious? We'll find out tomorrow.
पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः।